Good afternoon. Welcome to 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop. Glad that you are with us and making us a part of your day. So much to get to here on the show. We'll hear from Chad Lunsford, Georgia Southern head football coach. He will join us here on the show. Spring practice starts tomorrow, 5:30 for the Eagles. He will join us. We'll look at who the newcomers are, who are some of the spots, or what are some of the spots open for competition here in the spring. He'll join us in just a little bit. Also, Buck Bellew, 680 The Fan, Braves Radio Network, former Georgia quarterback. We'll talk Georgia spring practice with him, and also the Braves, who are a little bit more than a week away from starting the 2021 season here around the corner. So he'll join us coming up in just a little bit as well. We'll take a look at Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest mock draft coming up in the final hour, but it is Tuesday. I want to say Monday. I keep forgetting. We've had a little bit different NCAA tournament schedule with the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday first two rounds. But one thing is the same as we saw in 2019. Your bracket's trash, man. Like that has not changed whatsoever. 16 upsets in the first two rounds, and everybody's bracket's looking beat. BJ, you and I were talking about this where you sent me a text. I think it was Friday afternoon in the first day of the first round, and said it is 5:30 on Friday of the first round, and nobody has a perfect bracket in our ESPN Coastal Challenge. Nobody. After two sets of games, it was over, and I think the national bracket maybe lasted another half day or something, but it's just been carnage on the sheets of integrity.
Well, and I'm in like 47th place or 45th place or something really embarrassing in our ESPN Coastal Bracket Challenge. But I want to take this opportunity to blame that solely on you, Kevin, because normally I have been an upset guy, right? Like I normally pick a 13. I normally pick a couple of 12s. I'll take a double-digit seed to go to the Sweet 16. But for a decade, I've heard you talk about, hey, man, just go chalk. Chalk is the way to go. Don't overthink it. Trust the seeding. Trust, kind of the regular season results. So this is the most chalk my bracket has ever been. It's pretty darn close to chalk. And what have we had? The most upsets through the first weekend ever. So I blame this solely on you.
My bracket's ahead of yours, so I don't know what you're doing. So
yeah, because if you look at your bracket, you didn't go off of the advice you've been giving.
Not true. I clearly stated you pick a 12 over a 5. 2 9s are going to beat 8s. I mean, yeah, there's some rules that you have to follow. I still have 3 of my final 4. It's fine. I'm hanging around.
I also, and I don't know if Christian's in there, I also don't understand some of this because I have 7 of my Elite 8 and I have all of my 4 remaining because I didn't have Illinois going that far. And I'm still in like second to last place. So how is that possible?
They do like points per game picked correctly. So it's not a projection. It's just what you've done so far. But no, BJ, what you're missing with Kevin is you took the free advice that Kevin gets out, which is pretty much go chalk. If you want the super in-depth stuff, like how many 9s you need to take over 8s, which 10s you need to take over 7s, you got to subscribe to Kevin Thomas Plus. You got to pay the $3.99 a month, and you will have access to all of Kevin Thomas's filling out information.
Also, Christian, Kevin got the article. You like, oh man, that's great. And then like, you read like a paragraph and a half, and they go disclaimer. Listen, no, look, number one, okay, there is no science to picking this stuff. This is the thing. Me and Christian did it over the phone, and I'll say, Christian, go, whoa, you got this team. I said, no, Christian, it doesn't matter. This is how I'm going to start picking teams. The teams that Jay Billis knows the least about. When they go, Oral Roberts, oh man, that's a great team. Picking them. See, the teams he goes in depth about, these guys got 2 big men that project real well on the neck. They're going to get beat. Illinois should never have been a number 1 seed. They got shot too. But the thing is, BJ, once again, this is why we love the tournament, because you got a lot of upsets going on. But the NCAA is praying like, okay, Michigan, okay, Gonzaga. Because as soon as UVA lost, was it going to be back-to-back? Nobody thought that Virginia was going to go back-to-back. I mean, stop with it now. But
here's what does make 2021 a little bit different from that is that things that normally you wouldn't take into consideration, you have to take into consideration, like Virginia. Literally flew up, rolled out the basketballs, and played, right? I mean, they didn't practice for 2 weeks leading up to the NCAA tournament and just went out there and played. Who was it? The VCU had to dip out because of COVID, so someone got a free pass into the next round because of that. So some of the things that, normally you wouldn't have to take into consideration, like, hey, in years past, it would never come into a thought in your mind to say, hey, I might have to change my pick because the 10th guy on the bench at Michigan might come down with COVID or have a contact trace, and therefore 6 dudes can't play on a team or something. Like, there's no way to predict that kind of stuff. So, stuff like that does happen. I think given practice times and maybe lack thereof for some teams, this has been a weird setup for the tournament, and nobody played the same amount of games. They're like relatively even close. So that made it hard. I think this is probably going to go down as one of the more difficult brackets to forecast because everybody's dealing with something different. Some teams played 27, 28 games. Some teams played 17. Some teams didn't practice before the NCAA tournament, and some did. To me, it's just one of those things that happens. Doesn't mean my method was flawed, BJ. This is, as you like to say, the outlier.
Okay, I'll buy that. I'll buy that this is the statistical outlier. But I was texting Christian and Ben this because it really is amazing when you think about how difficult it is to pick these games. 5 games into the tournament. So go back to Thursday when the tournament started. 5 games. Once 5 games were completed, we did not have a single perfect bracket left in our pool. And what's amazing about that is if you just took a quarter and flipped it 5 times and you picked heads every single time, you would have a 3% plus. You'd have like a 3.5 or 3.7, whatever it is, % chance of getting it right. So just blind luck, you would be at between 3 and 4%. But when you think you know what you're doing, with 5, binary choices, this team or that team, we had 0 in our entire bracket who had gone 5 for 5. It's just absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it's incredible. We'll continue to look at our bracket as we go along. Of course, we got our ESPN Coastal Challenge going on. Again, a lot of basketball left to be played till we give out those wonderful prizes there at the end. So certainly don't give up. It's still all about possible points remaining in these brackets. So, BJ, even though you are near the bottom, you still have all your Final Four, which means your possible points remaining is still very, very high. And I think you'll shoot up the boards here as we enter the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 rounds. We got plenty to get to. We're going to step aside a little early here in the first segment so we can get to Chad Lunsford, Georgia Southern head football coach. He will join us when we return. Their spring practice starts tomorrow. And we'll talk with him next here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We're streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com on your mobile device with the ESPN app, live streaming Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well. Chad Lunsford next here on 3 and Out. Welcome back. It's 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop. Glad you are with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network and following us online, ESPNCoastal.com as well. Spring practices opening up all across the South. Georgia Southern, no different. Their spring practice begins tomorrow afternoon in Statesboro. And joining us, the head football coach of the Georgia Southern Eagles, Chad Lunsford, steps in here on 3 and Out. Coach, welcome. How are you?
Oh, doing great. Thank y'all for having me on today.
I appreciate you coming on. And I know what a difference a year makes for you coming around and get the full spring practice here in 2021. What are you most looking forward to trying to get done this go around?
Well, I'll tell you the exciting part is getting that off season and getting that spring ball in. We really didn't understand last year, and we didn't understand what not having spring ball and what not having an off season really was going to be about. And we're just looking forward to the opportunity for these extra times, these extra moments to get better as a football team. So very excited about being able to get it in.
I was going to say, Coach, to that end, just the energy and the optimism and being able to go out there and play some ball. How excited are your guys to have this opportunity and to work towards what should be another very exciting season?
I think they are really excited. We were very strategic, being only one of two teams to play 13 games last year. We thought it was important to push our spring ball back. Normally we're an early spring ball team, but just because we needed to make sure we got in that weight room and got some extra strength and conditioning, and plus, let our guys get away from ball a little bit just to, kind of get that hunger going. And and now that we have pushed it back after spring break for us, you can really tell those guys are ready to hit the field.
And Coach, I believe you guys are going to have fans starting tomorrow. How important is it to let the fans be able to see the product on the field? I know that the springtime is when the fans kind of get introduced to the new faces, maybe some old faces, because I know you talked about how different it was for the team last year. It had to be excruciating for the fan base.
Well, there's no question because, the fan base didn't have the opportunity to see who the new up-and-comers were going to be, and they didn't get a chance to see the old guys and how they had progressed. And, that's what's exciting. And I know we're, as a university, we're looking at ways to make it available for our fans to come out and watch our spring practices. Obviously, we still have to be very mindful of what's going on with the pandemic and be very safe and smart. But we're gonna try everything we can to have an open practice throughout the spring, so people can get out and see some of those new faces and see some of those guys that are going to need to step up because it's their time.
And one of those spots, the quarterback spot, Coach, is again Shy Werts moves on, and you got a transfer coming in, some guys that have played. What are you looking to see out of the quarterback spot here in spring? And is that a position that's wide open right now?
No question it is. And, I think the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to at the quarterback position is, seeing who has that it factor, who has what it takes to be the quarterback of the Georgia Southern Eagles. Quarterback is very important in all schools and all teams but at Georgia Southern, man, it's just a little bit different because you got to be able to run the ball, you got to be able to throw the ball, and you got to be able to be a tough guy that can lead and really have that it factor. It is a wide open competition. I think Justin Tomlin, in his limited amount of experience and the opportunities to start the last 2 years, definitely gives him a leg up because he's been able to go play Georgia Southern football. However, again, it's one of those things where Shy Werts has been starting quarterback for 4 straight years, and so we've got. We got 3 to 4 guys that really are going to go compete for that starting position at quarterback. So I'm just looking forward to see who really has that dog mentality and wants to go out there and take it.
And, Coach, you got a former program quarterback, one of the all-time greats, a former bowl game MVP, and Fabian Upshaw back, going to coach the running backs. What's it like having him on campus and having him with the staff?
I tell you, I got asked yesterday on the media press conference that we had, what it was like to hire Fabian. I tell you, a lot like giving walk-on scholarships, being able to hire former players as coaches is one of my favorite things as the head coach. I mean, and obviously there's a lot of deserving former players out there that deserve, that have worked very hard to become coaches. And but Fabian has really impressed me. He impressed me here as a player, as a leader. But then as I dug into it and as we kind of looked at it as the way he was going to go in his coaching career and how he's really just put his head down and grind and, wasn't worried about what level of ball it was, but just going and doing hard work and, really trying to grow as a coach. And he really impressed us with his interview when he interviewed early in January for the actual wide receiver spot. And then, we went with Coach Sherman there. But then later on, Nick Jones, who took a job in the NFL, and I was at that point, I moved Joe Graves to tight end, special teams coordinator, and that opened up that running back spot. And Fabian was really a no-brainer for us. And, it's just exciting because it keeps it in the family and it shows that we want to take care of our former players.
And Coach, I know, that quarterback room, as Kevin mentioned, is going to probably be the most exciting competition, going into the spring. But this is your fourth season as a coach. I know with coaches, y'all tell players all the time, just work on the little things. What are you as a coach working on in year 4 that maybe you could improve on from year 3?
Well, I think the big piece is understanding as a program, how we have either grown or things that we've maybe fell short in. And I think doing a really good analysis of that and going, hey, we have our plan. We built our culture. Now it's time to take that next step. And I think we've done a really good job of analyzing, how we've been on the outside looking in, knocking on the door for a Sun Belt title, but not quite getting it done. And, I think the big piece is we got to continue to play fanatical defense. We got to play exceptional special teams, and then we got to be efficient on offense. And we got to learn how to put people away. We've been very inconsistent at that. We've done a good job of it at times, but we really want to go into each game going, hey, how are we going to make this team tap out? And I think that's the mindset this year is to figure out each and every game we play, how are we going to go out and make them tap out so that we can win the football game.
And you mentioned playing that fanatical defense, Coach. When you look at what you're trying to accomplish here in spring on that side of the ball, who are some of the new faces you think are really going to get an opportunity to shine now? As you said, it's kind of their turn.
Well, I tell you, we had a young guy in Derek Canteen that really stepped up last year. So obviously he's going to hold it down in secondary. But Anthony Wilson at safety, who got a lot of good reps in last year. Justin Birdsong, when Kendrick Duncan was banged up. He was a guy that really ended up stepping up for us and, putting themselves on the map. At linebacker, I'm really looking forward to seeing Todd Bradley. I'm also looking forward to seeing a guy like Trey Allen. And then, we've also brought in Andrew Johnson, who was an Oregon transfer. We can play him at outside linebacker. We could even play him at a 5 technique. But we're starting him out at inside linebacker, and I'm really excited about him. And then on the defensive front, I think we got some young talent, A.J. Watkins, Justin Ellis, guys like that really stepped up last year. Looking forward to seeing what they can do in a full-time role.
I was going to say, Coach, in college football today, it seems most programs have a couple of transfers every offseason, guys coming in. Is that even kind of extra neat for you in spring practice to be able to evaluate kind of in person guys that have been with other programs and see in spring ball how they can be impact players for you?
Yeah, I think it's really important, if you can get those transfers in at mid-year because a couple things. I mean, obviously they get, extra time with us. They learn the system. They get the strength and conditioning with us, but also they learn our culture. And so I think it's important when you bring a transfer in, and I wouldn't say that we wouldn't bring somebody in the summer, but we really like to get them there mid-year because we want them to fit into what we're doing here and not come in and just, kind of change the way we do things. That's not how it's going to be. And so it's important to get them here. And, we were able to, James Graham, quarterback at Georgia Tech, Andrew Johnson, linebacker from Oregon, Amari Jones, running back from Tulane. Those were 3 guys that we had earmarked, and we got them here mid-year, and looking forward to seeing what they can do.
And Coach, when you talk about the reputation of a league, I don't think there is a better reputation right now than the Sun Belt. Obviously, you guys have great competition within the conference, but you guys out of conference schedule. Not only, y'all, playing some of the best teams, y'all beat some of the best. You guys are at Arkansas, at FAU, but you guys got BYU coming to Statesboro. How excited is it going to be to have a team like BYU coming to Statesboro to talk about that out of conference schedule?
I tell you, it's really exciting, having a team of that stature, that success that they've had, them being able to come here and visit our place and, kind of seeing what the power of Paulson's about for them. I think I'm very excited for our team. I'm excited for our fan base. I think that's a really good opportunity to try to showcase what Georgia Southern football is about against a really good program at our place. So excited about that. And then to your point about the Sun Belt, I'm telling you, man, Sun Belt's a well-coached league, got really good football players. We've seen that with guys that are going on to play in the NFL. But then you start looking at that bowl record of the Sun Belt over the last few years and how we've done a really awesome job in those bowl games. So it's a really great league, man, and it's a lot of fun to play each and every week.
And I was going to say, as we're talking with Chad Lunsford, Georgia Southern head coach, it's got to be good that every week, I mean, just a couple of years ago, you guys were new. Appalachian State was new. Coastal Carolina relatively new into the league, and now it seems like all you guys are competing for conference championships. And I know you talked about finishing every week. How difficult is it though every week, and to drive that message home to your guys and say, hey, this league is even different from when the Eagles first came into it, where you can't just say, hey, we need to really focus on 2 or 3 really good teams and we'll be there. You got to show up every week.
Yeah, and that's the mindset that has to be built, and I think we've done a good job of that, of making sure. The one thing that I saw out of our team last year, even though it was really a weird year, and there was a lot of things we missed that we didn't get to do to get yourself to be a very fundamentally sound football team. I did see a team that showed up each and every week, ready to go, ready to play, and understanding that it didn't matter who the opponent was, you better have yourself ready to go.
Coach, before we let you go, we've seen so many players come through Georgia Southern, go to the NFL via the NFL draft. A couple of guys drafted last year, and you look ahead a few weeks, Raymond Johnson, Rashad Bird, Ryan Langan, some guys that have big-time opportunities. What's it like for you watching some of your players have an opportunity to go through some of the pre-draft stuff at the next level and then ultimately hear their name called and go play in the NFL?
It's really exciting. We're having our pro day this week as well. We're going to go 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. And, for Raymond and Rashad and Ryan, those guys have put a lot of work into it. I was visiting with all of them this week, and, they're just excited. And they do understand that the work's been put in. Now it's up to the NFL. Go out there and show what you can do and see if it's going to work out. And, I feel really good about those 3 guys. I think those 3 guys can definitely help some teams in the league. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. But, over the last few years, man, we've been blessed to have guys get those opportunities. And, we just want to continue to do that and try to continue to develop guys and put themselves in a position to reach their dream.
Chad Lunsford joining us here on 3 and Out. Coach, really appreciate the time. I know you're excited about getting spring practice started tomorrow. And again, thanks so much. And best of luck to you guys moving forward here in spring.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. GATA.
Appreciate it. Chad Lunsford, Georgia Southern head football coach, joining us here on 3 and Out. And obviously, quarterback's going to be a big focal point. BJ and Ben, as they look to fill in, could it be James Graham, the transfer that he mentioned there coming in from Georgia Tech? We'll have to wait and see. But certainly, this is a team that, as he said, needs to finish in some big games. I think that's not necessarily always been the MO, but here in the Sun Belt, they've had really good chances to compete for a title and have maybe 1 game or 2 games where it's you just didn't come out start to finish and get after it. And I know that's not what he expects, and you just haven't been able to close out the deal and go play for that conference championship.
Yeah, and I mean, Ben, this, of course, you can lay kind of the foundation for who you are in the spring. And I think Georgia Southern's going to have a really competitive, really engaged spring. And I do look at the quarterback position. James Graham was a full season starter at Georgia Tech, has some history throwing the ball, running the ball, can do a number of different things. You think about Tomlin, who Coach mentioned, who has been there a couple of years, has had some big moments, very, very nearly led the Eagles to a win over Minnesota a couple of years ago. So you have good, talented options. You have depth at quarterback. Replacing a program legend, a leader like Shai Werts is going to be difficult. But I definitely think when you look at Georgia Southern and kind of the storylines for spring, you start with the quarterback position.
Yeah, the quarterback position is definitely it's obviously even with Shaq Words, being the starter the last 3 or 4 years, BJ, it was still going to be the most talked about position because it's are they gonna open up the passing game more? You know what they're gonna do running the football. I mean, JD King, BJ, I think he might be banged up a little bit. Will they let him practice or will they just wait on him? But Logan Wright and Gerald Green and Jalen White and Amari Jones, coming over. I think that the thing about this Georgia Southern team, they don't lack talent. I know they're gonna have to be able to place guys. But I think if you look at what this team wants to do, if they can just add that nuance of the passing game, that way, if it comes time to them have to, as Coach said, close out a team, you're looking forward to passing the football now, and we got to make a throw compared to we got guys that can do it. It's going to be fun. I love the fact that fans can be there because, look, I mean, nobody loves their team more than Georgia Southern, Georgia Southern faithful, but I'm looking forward to seeing these guys and how they're going to look, retool, because as I mentioned, the Sun Belt, it is only getting better. Coastal Carolina has sketched his name and said, we here too. BYU was coming to town.
Hey, man, listen, I'm just saying, you could have asked him about one of the big non-conference games from a couple of years ago if you wanted. I mean,
no. I try to live in the present. That's why Oral Roberts is my new team.
Hey, we appreciate Chad Lunsford joining us here on the show. We'll come back. We'll hear from Buck Bellew, 680 The Fan, former Georgia quarterback, Braves Radio Network. A lot to talk about with him next here on 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here on this Tuesday, Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Thanks for making us a part of your day here on 3 and Out. Live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, ESPNCoastal.com, and of course, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Georgia in the middle of spring practice. Braves baseball going to start up regular season play in a little bit more than a week. And joining us, our next guest from 680 The Fan, former Georgia quarterback, and with the Braves Radio Network, Buck Belue, joins us here on the show. Buck, welcome. How are you?
Man, I'm doing well. Just can't wait to see G-Day and really excited about the Brave season getting underway. So, yeah, we're right in the middle of it here.
Certainly. And again, Buck, I know a lot of folks talking about Georgia football, talking about JT Daniels, the quarterback, and what they're expecting him to do here in 2021. As somebody who's obviously been through it, how much do you think Georgia was affected, at least somewhat, by not having spring practice at all to install Coach Monken's offense and kind of have it ready to go when you got to fall?
Well, I'm expecting JT Daniels to elevate his performance level from what we saw a year ago. And my goodness, the 4 games we saw him play, he was playing at a high level. So I just think the reps, the comfort level with the system, with the other guys, chemistry and confidence with these receivers who, by the way, this isn't going to be a weakness on the team anymore like we've seen the last few years. It's a really talented group of receivers. A lot of them got their feet wet a year ago, and just really expecting JT and this Bulldog offense to sort of lead the way this season. So I'm excited to see it, man. I mean, JT can spin it, reads coverage well. He's got what you need to spread that ball around as we saw last season. This should really be fun watching these guys play it this year offensively.
And Buck, I know there's been a lot of talk both just about college football contenders and about Georgia specifically with regards to kind of what the offensive identity should be. In your mind, what kind of offense do you want to see this fall out of the Dogs?
Well, I believe they should be leading with the pass right now. With this team, look, I think maybe a year ago there's some questions at the quarterback spot as far as the ability to be able to throw it and spin it. Once JT stepped in there, it's pretty obvious he can do that. So I think to take it to the next level, to get back to the playoffs, have a shot of beating Clemson and Alabama and Ohio State, teams like that. I think Georgia right now, though, with the skill set they've accumulated, as I just mentioned, receiver group looks strong. They've got some running backs that can catch it. I know they got a quarterback that can play ball. So just expecting Monken now a chance to teach it and rep it during the spring is going to be huge. And expecting this Georgia offense to be dangerous.
And obviously, Bug, when you think about a guy like Coach Monken, I mean, he seems to want to be more balanced, but I think he finally does have his guy in JT Daniels to be able to go out there and let the passing game lead the way. Do you think it's just a sign of the times? When you look at the best offensive now, even those in the national championship, they seem to be having big-time quarterbacks that can push the ball down the field.
Yeah, I tell you, Pickens, man, that I hope that Monken right now is targeting ways to get him the football, a lot like we saw Devontae Smith getting it at Alabama a year ago. I mean, this guy, Pickens, is ready to bust out on the national scene. I mean, we've only had Terrence Edwards at Georgia having a 1,000-yard receiving season, and we've been playing football for 100 years. So I think Pickens is really lined up for a huge year. And look, at running back, we're so deep and talented. Guys that can catch it like Milton and McIntosh, guys that can run it like Zamir and Edwards really showed something. I mean, they've got playmakers across the board. Washington at tight end. A lot of talk about this freshman that showed up this year in this recruiting class as another tight end that can go get it. And I'm telling you, I'm excited to see this offense. I talked with David Pollack earlier today, and we were talking about the Georgia defense. And look, this front seven is going to be rugged, guys. Defensive line looks really strong to me with Big 99 coming back. You got the Kobe Dean Roman there at the second level, and really the big unknowns at cornerback, obviously. And they've recruited very well there with 4- and 5-star players in the last 2 recruiting classes. I just can't wait to get over and see G-Day, to see Keely Ringo and Jalen Timber, Nyland Green, guys like that to play that cornerback spot. Spotlight one area, that's going to be it this year. Can we defend at the cornerback spot? A lot of young, inexperienced, but talented guys. Going to be fun to watch G-Day and see how that group does too. So I'm excited about Georgia football this season.
And Buck, when you talk about the young guys there in the secondary, or at least guys waiting their turn, what do you kind of learn about that from spring practice versus, hey, when the lights are on and it's 70, 80,000 against Florida or Auburn or Tennessee or Bama? How do you respond then? How do you kind of find that out in spring that when it's best on best and the lights are shining, you can hold up?
Yeah, there's some pretty good competition when they go one-on-ones up in Athens right now. That'll get them ready. And this season opener's epic, guys. Clemson right off the top. It's a huge rivalry game. We're going to see this a little more in the coming years, so that's going to be awesome. We're talking to Pollock about Big Cinco. They're calling this new quarterback at Clemson, DJ Uiagalelei, and he is 6'5", 250. And I was talking about blitzing his butt earlier today, trying to help those corners out. I think this front seven's going to be pretty good. Got big Jordan Davis in the middle taking on double teams. Jalen Carter, this freshman defensive tackle from Apopka, Warren Sapp's hometown, showed me something last year. So he's coming back year number 2. Trayvon Walker's probably the key up front. Off the edge, Nolan Smith, got to get something out of Nolan this year, see him break out in that cornerback spot. But hey, with Kirby, we got 4 defensive coordinators working that defensive side of the ball over there with Kirby and Muschamp now on board as an analyst with Lanning and Schumann. I'd love to sit in that defensive staff meeting and just hear these guys break it down. That'd be fun.
Buck, switching gears, obviously we're right on right at the end of spring training, getting ready for the start of the Braves season. I know the NL East looks really good again on paper, but given the young talent, given the experiences on the roster, a couple of additions, do you feel like the Braves are still the team to beat in the National League East?
I really do. I think we'll win 4 in a row here. And I say that because with this rotation, to me, Fried has been lights out. So I'm expecting him to back up what he did last season as a guy that, was an all-star. So I'm expecting we'll see him as the opening day starter. Charlie Morton's looked good this spring, a veteran that knows how to pitch, still got good stuff. So I like what Morton's going to bring to the table. Smiley is sort of the wild card. He's been dinged up and injured a lot, but when he's healthy, he's pretty filthy and experienced. Ian Anderson has come in and had a good spring too, until Soroka gets back, and I think that's going to be soon, guys. I would think we'll see him before the end of April back in the rotation. He is in the best shape of his life, bending it both ways, which makes it tough on the hitter. So Bryce Wilson's on that 5th spot in the row. If they're going to go that coming out of camp, he's pitched really well. And, Will Smith had a good camp. They look for him to be the closer. He's locating that devastating slider he's got again this spring, striking most everybody out. So Will Smith's going to be huge. I had to have talked to some people here the last day or two concerned about the bench, and I sort of chuckle and laugh at that because we've got 6 of our 8 guys in the everyday lineup. I mean, you got Acuna and Pache out in the outfield. You got Riley, Swanson, Albies, and I'm going to put Freeman in this category too. We've got 6 of the 8 that are going to play 155 games. We don't really need bench guys that can come in and start on a regular basis. So I wouldn't worry too much about the bench. And then you got Anthopoulos, who hadn't traded any of these prospects away, can dip down into the minor league prospects and make a deal, whether it's a right-handed reliever to put in the bullpen or to replace somebody that's gotten dinged up or injured. We're in pretty good shape, I think, going into the season. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if they check back to Shane Green, see if his price tags come down a little bit now that we're 9 days away from the season. I might be able to add some depth there at the bullpen. But, yeah, to answer your question, I like our chances again this year.
And Buck, I mean, you mentioned Christian Pache. Obviously, I mean, he's gonna be the guy in center field. What do you think are realistic expectations for him this season?
I'm sorry,
I said, you mentioned Christian Pache. I was asking you, what do you think are realistic expectations for him this season?
I'm sorry, I'm a little.
Was asking you about there, Buck. What do you expect from him here in 2021, making his full season debut?
Pache?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, guys, you're going to see one of the best defenders in the game, and I'm talking about as a rookie. I mean, he's going to gun these dudes out. He threw somebody down yesterday trying to take an extra base on him. He's a young Andrew Jones defensively, and look, we're going to have to be patient offensively. Hitting major league pitching is one of the toughest things in sports. So be patient with the kid. He's going to hit 8, but I'll tell you a couple things about him. I saw him 2 years ago, and I thought, wow, he is really thin. I mean, he looked like Devontae Smith. And he's a grown man now. He's really matured physically. And the other thing he's done is worked really hard on his swing to shorten his swing down. It's really compact. Now, I know the numbers say he's really struggling down at spring training. I talked to one of my Brave sources today down there watching him every day, and so he's been a little bit unlucky, hitting some balls right at some people. But I'm excited. This is one of the things I'm most excited about is to see Pache play center field this year.
And Buck, finally, to that end, I know you said he struggled a little bit, but you got to like the moxie of a kid when it's his turn to say, what number do you want? He went right for the Andrew Jones number, right? I mean, that tells you a lot about his psyche to say, I'm going to go wear the number of maybe the greatest center fielder that's worn the Braves uniform.
Yeah, you can understand why he respects Andrew. I'm still a little surprised his number's available.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Me too. When it's all said and done, maybe he puts another reason on for number 25 to be out there retired at the end of the day. Buck, hey, we're up against it. We appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Hey, it's good to be with you guys. Keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. You too. Buck Belue joining us here, Braves Radio Network, 680 The Fan, former Georgia quarterback, talking some Georgia football, Braves baseball. Braves opening day 1 week from Thursday. They will be back at it as well. Of course, Georgia spring game coming up next month there in Athens. We've got more to come. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Welcome back. It's 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, BJ Bennett. Glad you were with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Reminder, once we are done here, you hear the Sean Quinn Show following us. Savannah State at home this week, getting their 2 games in here in the spring. And again, 2020, 2021, you do what you got to do to get to play. But I heard Christian say on second down earlier, BJ and Ben, at Savannah State, they have not played a home football game in like 500 some odd days. So it'll be a treat coming up on Saturday to finally get to do that.
Excited for these guys, proud of all the work they've put in on the field, off the field. And it's obviously been an unprecedented, very difficult stretch. And, Ben, you've talked about this before. Being a big time student athlete is all about routine and all about repetition and consistency and getting into your schedule. And for everybody, of course, for the last year plus, that's been impossible. That's it. You've had to hit the reset button across the board. So I know they were so excited to get after it over in Mobile and now a chance to play in Savannah. I'm just really looking forward to it and really happy for everybody with the program and the university.
These young boys they so much farther along than I ever was when I was a player, because the hardest thing for any player to do is to take what I love the most and take it away from me while those around me still get to do it. And for those guys to stay the course, for those seniors to be able to rally those, there are young guys on the team that this is their first time. They've never had a spring ball, right? They've never played at home, so their college experience, is one of those things to where, like, when they go back 10 years from now, man, what was it like going to Savannah State? It was beautiful, man, but we was tested. But like you, Kevin, man, I'm happy for those guys. I will tell Coach Quinn this. Listen, let the penalties go in the first quarter, because that just excites me. Guys are ready to go. They family finally get to see him suit up. The young man, I don't want to say his name, BJ, that had cancer. I mean, he's back out there. I mean, it's Savannah. If you listen, you can't root for Savannah State. You don't.
Kyle Frazier did.
Okay, yeah, I had it. So I just think that, Kevin, for me, listen, the notion of go hit somebody, anybody can get it. Coach Lawson better back up off that. Coach Quinn better back up off that sideline. He might get hit, because it's exciting, because at the end of the day, like I said, man, I represent college football players first, college football second. I'm always rooting for these guys. They have beautiful colors, BJ, if you haven't had a chance to see them, by the way.
After 500 days of not getting to hit anybody else, I'm sure they'll be extra excited just to get after somebody else.
You in the orange and blue, man. The Mets, the Broncos,
the Knicks.
I know. Just give it a rest. We give it a rest. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We're streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com on your mobile device with the ESPN app. Good to have you along on this Tuesday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, hour 2 here of 3 and Out. Glad you are with us. Got some interesting thoughts on the NCAA tournament from BJ. He wants to hear. He's got a hypothesis about how we feel about sports, especially this time of year with March Madness going on. We'll talk to him about that. We'll get his thoughts in just a second. But it is 4 o'clock, which means one thing. Usually on the show, it's time to take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, take 1. Purdue's Rondale Moore put up a 42.5-inch vertical at his pro day. I think also ran sub 4.3 in the 40. Can he be a legitimate threat at wide receiver after at the pro day? He measured up at 5'7".
Yeah, I think he absolutely can. And I do think magically it's amazing how these sizes are never accurate. Most people anticipated Rondale to be around 5'9", and ended up being 5'7". I don't know that you're looking at a situation. I think it would be an exaggeration to say, 5'9" or 5'8". Yeah, definitely. 5'7", no chance. I mean, I think some of that's a little crazy. Ben, you've talked about this. You're not going to put Rondale out on the perimeter going up against 6'2", 6'3" corners very often. He's going to be in the slot. He's going to be in the slot like guys like Wes Welker, guys like Cole Beasley, guys like Taylor Gabriel, who are in the kind of the 5'8" to 5'10" range more often than not. And I can also answer this question with a question. Does 12 catches for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns against Ohio State sound like you're playing wide receiver? Because he did that against the Buckeyes when they were number 1 in the nation during his college career. And last time I checked, Ohio State's starting defense pretty much goes to the NFL every year. If you're a starter at Ohio State, you go to the NFL. So I look at Rondale Moore. He did it in the Big Ten. He did it against the big names in the Big Ten: Iowa, Northwestern, Penn State, Ohio State. Whether he's 5'8.5", 5'9", or a quarter, or 5'7", I don't know that it matters. Put him in the slot. Let him line up in the backfield some. Let him make plays, man. Let him make plays.
I hope so. Because the whole thing about this, BJ, I mean, there's nothing to compare him to. When you start talking about 5'7" in the slot, I understand he's running like 4.2s, 4.3s. He definitely got speed. But the thing is, some of Ohio State defense goes to the pros, not all of them. But he's going to be getting the best, slot corners in the world. He's going to be getting guys that can run with him, but they can put hands on him. And I know that you got Wes Welker, which changed the way we look at the slot position. A guy like Steve Smith Jr., who's 5'9". But whenever you compare the rookie to all-time greats, that scares me, because Julian Edelman isn't the biggest guy you ever seen, but can they take the punishment? See, when I hear 5'7", no matter what he weighs, can he take the punishment game in and game out? Because you're going to get hit. Me and Kevin was talking about something before the show. In the NFL, you may see a slot guy dive at the guy's knees. You might be like, what is he doing? That's called, listen, you got to know. You have to know this when the journey is over. The reason why guys like Ward Dunn made it for over a decade is because they're not out there. They understand they're out there with giants and they're trying to make it. So can he do it, BJ? Yes. Will he do it? I hope he does, because just like a Kyler Murray or a Baker Mayfield, or a Drew Brees, somebody got to open up the door. I don't know if it's going to be him. I hope it is. But 5'7" in the league, and you're not lined up behind the quarterback, I got to see it. I'm not saying
okay, but let me say this. I understand your point, but just for frame of reference, so people know, here were Ohio State's corners in 2018. Damon Arnett, Jeffrey Okudah, Kendall Sheffield, and Shaun Wade. Those were their 4 top corners. 3 of those guys are in the NFL, and Shaun Wade's about to get drafted. So all 4, and Kendall Sheffield starts for the Falcons. Jeffrey Okudah is a Pro Bowl caliber player. Shaun Wade, up until playing in the playoff, most people thought he was going to be a first-round pick, now probably a second-round pick. So he did it against those guys. I understand the wear and tear argument, but to me that applies to anybody. Can anybody take the punishment of a 16-17 game NFL?
Well, no. That's but you always got to factor this in too. Most receivers don't realize how big Jalen Ramsey is until he stands in front of them. What happens when Jalen goes, hey man, we got to take away the number 1 slot. Let's slide on this side. Now, because what I'm saying is, BJ, is this. I'm not taking nothing away from Ohio State corners. Ohio State's going to have a corner this year that's going to get drafted. How did he look in the biggest games? I'm just saying you are getting the best of the best, regardless of whatever school they went to. I hope he does it. I don't want to sound critical of him, because I hope he does it. But hope and a dream, man. I'm just saying, can he deal with the fact that he's used to running by guys, he's out there by himself. He's going to look to the left, and they're going to be looking at him like, yo, I'm right here with you. My money depends on it. So 4-2 is good, but does he play 4-2? Because he's going to have to play big. 5'7", he's going to have to play bigger than the size, which I hope he does.
Catch the ball and get down. Just don't take a hit.
Kevin Thomas, wide receiver guru, catch it, get down, live for another play. Unless you're on the outside and it's one-on-one and take it to the house.
Do everything you can, make those business decisions, as Ben says, and live to play another down. All right, moving along, take two. Obviously, our brackets are they leave a lot to be desired. But which underdog do you think has the best chance of making the Final Four, which means they got to get through this next weekend and Monday and Tuesday?
I'll say Loyola Chicago, but I don't feel good about it. And here's why I don't feel good about it. It's not because I don't think they can win. It's because I don't know that they're an underdog. It's interesting that people talk about Loyola Chicago like they're a Cinderella. They were in the last Final Four. I mean, they were in the last Final Four. So I don't know that they're an underdog in reality, but in terms of perception, I guess I'll say Loyola. And the reason is because, well, A, they're very good. And B, I think on paper, now I know this is dangerous, but on paper, that right side of the bracket looks a whole lot easier than the left side. You look in the Midwest region, the Midwest region has Loyola. So in addition to Loyola, you have Oregon State, who's a 12 seed, who had 12 losses in the regular season. That's who they play to go to the Elite Eight. You have Syracuse, who had 9 losses as an 11 seed and finished 8th in the ACC. And then you have Houston, who's really good, but Houston needed a buzzer beater, and they were down 10 with 4 minutes left to come back and beat Rutgers. So the Midwest, in terms of proven commodities, is wide open compared to say, the East, where you have Michigan and Alabama, who have looked incredible, and then Florida State and UCLA. So you look at Creighton, if you want to call them kind of a sleeper. They're not getting by Gonzaga. Gonzaga's been working everybody. That ain't happening. You look at Oral Roberts. I still think that Cinderella story is kind of hard to explain. They entered the NCAA tournament 281st in defensive efficiency. That is by far the worst defensive metric of anybody in the tournament. So give them all the credit in the world, man. Beat Ohio State, beat Florida, but to ask a team that struggles defensively to add one more win to that over Arkansas and then try to maybe beat a hot shooting Baylor or Villanova, I just don't see that. So to me, it's Loyola Chicago if you consider them an underdog.
I mean, BJ, and this is not because they beat my Gators. Nope. I think it is Oral Roberts because the thing is, like I said,
that's exactly why.
No. Because once again, when you say they don't even play defense well, well, how are they winning? Because they will not go away. They live and die by the three. Oral Roberts is going to put up threes, and I say, look, we're going to miss more than we make, but we're going to make them when it counts. And for me, BJ, like you said, Arkansas is nervous, and they should be because they're going against a team that don't supposed to be here, as if Arkansas is supposed to be here too. We keep talking about. So for me, I think it is Oral Roberts. I mean, you talk about a hot shooting Villanova or a Baylor team. Once again, man, shout out to the Pac-12 too.
Arkansas is a good team. I don't know why we're saying they're not supposed to be.
At the Hogs, man. That was just out of left field. We're just cutting down the Hogs.
I mean, no. And I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna how Kevin framed this. What underdog in the Sweet 16 got a chance to win this thing? So for me, I think it is Oral Roberts for the simple fact that they came out of nowhere. BJ, this is this is gonna be a team every year. Loyola Chicago, they become a usual suspect. They becoming like the Butlers of the world.
Yeah, days. I mean, what's interesting about that is if you go off just kind of the blind taste test of the resumes, I mean, Florida State hadn't been to a Final Four since '72. Alabama's never been to a Final Four. Arkansas hasn't been to a Final Four since the mid-'90s. I don't know about Baylor off the top of my head. Oregon State just won their first tournament game in 40 years. I mean, if you go off of underdogs by the traditional sense, there are 7 or 8 teams on this in this Sweet 16 that are more of a true underdog than Loyola.
I just want to confirm something with Ben. Oral Roberts, your pick there has zero to do with the fact they beat Florida. Like nothing, zero.
Nothing to do. Nothing to do with it. Didn't have Florida. Didn't even have Florida coming out of the first round. They shocked me that they got
Okay,
the same.
but just
And I
confirm
think,
also,
according to Ben's optimism, they have 0% chance of making the Final Four.
yeah,
Not gonna-
and you were talking about Oral Roberts 3-point shooting. They went 10 of 30 against Florida. So
I just told you they live and die by the three. I said it's not. They're gonna miss more than they make, but it's when they make them.
Ben, it's okay. You got to root for the teams that beat your team because
No, I
it'll
don't.
make your team beat theirs.
Let me say this. Let me say this right now. We talked about this. They gave Florida the benefit of the doubt for a reason I do not know why. I get sick of this every single year. So okay, so you come back against Virginia Tech down 10.
Whoa! Stop this, dude! No! Stop this! This is trivia time for everybody because Ben does this. It's kind of like other people on this show do about their favorite teams. Ben talks bad about Florida basketball. Let me provide some clarity. Not only did Florida go back-to-back 15 years ago, Florida also has won 8 straight first-round games in the NCAA tournament. The last first-round game Florida lost was to Jimmer Fredette and BYU in overtime. So the reason Florida gets the benefit of the doubt in basketball is because they've earned the benefit of the doubt in basketball.
Wow.
When you say they do this, that's not based off of reality. Florida's one of
That is based on reality. BJ, who did Florida beat 2 years ago in the first round? I don't remember either because it doesn't matter. I don't care who they beat.
Would you rather be in the NIT, Ben? I mean,
No,
come
hey,
on. I mean,
Georgia fans will take 1 first-round win.
Listen.
Even when Florida wasn't good, they still go to the Final Four. Like, people don't remember this. When Mateen Cleaves and Michigan State won the national championship, and this was not the heyday of Florida basketball, who'd they beat in the Final Four? Florida. Florida's one of the great postseason teams in basketball.
BJ Bennett, known Florida fan.
Yes, that's just a rough take from Ben there. We move along. Well, I mean, since we already had one Gator take, we might as well just go for another one. Take 3. Give us a good NFL comp for Kyle Pitts.
Darren Waller. I mean, when I see Kyle Pitts' size, frame, and ability, I think it's a guy like Darren Waller. When you talk about just
do we have a good NFL comp? Apparently, I read the question wrong, but may not change your answer. Do we have an NFL comp for Kyle Pitts?
Yes, Darren Waller is the comp. I mean, I think Darren Waller's all of 6'5", 6'6". He's around 250. I think, Kyle Pitts 6'6", 240. And the thing is, Darren Waller doesn't get the benefit of the doubt because of the team he plays for, not how he plays. I think when you look at what Kyle Pitts is going to come in to be instant offense, whatever team he goes to, he's going to be the move tight end. He's not going to have his hand on the ground. It's Darren Waller all day long. My top 3 tight ends in the league right now. You're going to go. Obviously, you're going to go with that beast. Travis. I can't even think of his name right now. I mean, I'm having a
beast.
I'm just having a brain fart. Just having a brain fart because we got to talk about them Gators and BJ want to
talk about Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce, George Kittle, then Darren Waller. BJ, do not talk about the history of Florida ever again when it comes to basketball because I live in the present and I'm tired of it. Sorry.
I mean, do I think there's if you have to go with one, I think Darren Waller makes sense. Maybe a Jared Cook in terms of just the body frame and, being a guy that's so athletic, but a true comp, I don't know that we have one.
Oh no, man. I don't think we get
Christian
Darren Waller.
is reading you like a book, BJ. He was saying, maybe you correct myself on the question asking because he goes, if you leave it the way you asked it, BJ's just going to say no. And he basically said no anyway, but that's –
it's important. Words mean things, Kevin.
Yes, apparently they do in a big, big way. Like the best dude in the league, obviously, is Travis. What's his name?
Yeah.
So it's.
The reason I put this in there is because number one, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit. Mel Kiper put out another wild mock draft, but inside of his mock draft, he keeps referencing Kyle Pitts as the poor man's Calvin Johnson. And I don't think it's as absurd of a reference as we think. I mean, the size, if you're going to compare him, Ben, to a former NFL player, I mean, 6'6", 240, can move, can go up and catch the ball. He's obviously not running a 4.3, but he still ran a 4.46. I mean, I think
I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's not for me.
Like to me, I'm not going to do Calvin Johnson for the simple fact that, we talking about a guy that looks and plays the same. We talk about a guy that, broke records in the NFL on a team that never won anything. I mean, just for reference. I mean, this is what I mean. Darren Waller, in 2019, he had 90 catches. Last year, he had 107 catches. 107. I'm just saying, Darren Waller don't get talked about enough because he plays for the Raiders. And Derek Carr is his quarterback. That's how you know he good. Stop it.
And they have to throw him the ball because Outside of Henry Ruggs, I don't know if I can name another threat for them in the passing game.
Is Henry Ruggs a threat?
When he's on the field, I mean, the Jets let him blow by him.
The Jets play zero coverage with the DB playing on the inside, looking at the sideline. He ain't even looking at Henry Ruggs with no safety on the top.
Yeah, they ran that Georgia coverage from the national championship.
and Derek Carr threw up a punch, and Henry Ruggs called for the fair catch in the end zone. That's nonsense.
I don't like this Calvin Johnson stuff. Look, man, I know Kyle Pitts is special. I ranked him number 1 on my SEC big board. I think if he goes top 5, that makes sense. But dude, Calvin Johnson.
As far as like being explosive,
poor man.
Like for explosive tight end,
one's going to that receiver, one's going to do it at tight end. I mean,
Kyle Pitts ran a 4.46 at 6'6", 240. Vernon Davis at the combine was like 6'3", 250, and ran a 4.38.
I think the only way Kyle Pitts is going to play quote tight end in the NFL is just on the program you get at the beginning, and
that's fine.
And where he signs his contract, because they're going to want to keep him out of that wide receiver range for contract money. He's going to line up on the outside. He's going to line up on the inside. He's going to play X. He's going to play Z. He's going to play everything.
Do you understand what Calvin Johnson did in his career?
I'm not comparing him to Calvin Johnson, but I'm saying Kevin said one did it as a wide receiver, one did it as a tight end. I'm saying what Kyle Pitts is going to do in the NFL is going to be tight end by name only.
Or just what tight ends do in the NFL now. But I mean,
talk about Kevin. Talk about them. Go ahead and go on the rant. Get on your soapbox. Talk about them boys. Tell them what they do.
I mean, we have a guy on the show that said, "Don't put my hand in the dirt." That was the start of it.
If you want to win, don't put my hand in the dirt. You got a better chance of winning, because if you run the ball on my side, it might be
Yeah.
Just saying.
What percentage of your snaps came from a 3-point stance?
I would say about 75%.
I would say maybe 5% of Kyle Pitts' snaps are going to come from a 3-point stance.
No. There are going to be times. No. And I got to say this too. Kyle Pitts can block. Like, they just don't talk.
I'm not saying he can't.
But at the end of the day, he go to the right squad. I would love to see Kyle Pitts go to San Francisco. They're gonna have to draft way up to get him. But if he went out there with George Kittle, woo! It's gonna
Keep
be
him away from the NFC South.
Yeah, just tight ends galore going all over the place. That's take 3. We do it every day. This time we'll come back. We'll allow BJ to present a hypothesis as it pertains to March Madness.
So many big words.
How does it relate consequentially, evidentially, subsequently to college football time to circle? We'll get to that when we come back. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Welcome back. It's 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. You can catch us streaming live as well online, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. If you missed any portion of the show, go to espncoastal.com, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Get a podcasted version of the show as well. We are smack dab in the middle of March Madness. BJ, a lot of upsets in the first round, 16 total upsets in the first 2 rounds. You've got an interesting thought you wish to lay on us here about how we treat March Madness versus how we kind of psychologically treat the college football playoff and college football seasons.
Yeah, and it's not a unique thought. This is something a lot of people talk about, but it kind of strikes me every March Madness just because of how much we all love and talk about and theorize about the postseason of college football. Is in college basketball, it's almost like, I don't want to say less impressive, but it's almost like the less heralded your regular season is, the more people love you in the postseason, right? It's like everybody's rooting for Oral Roberts to make the Final Four. Well, Oral Roberts went 16-10 in the regular season in a conference where very few people who even follow sports can name the teams that make up the league. You look at Oregon State. Oregon State's in the Sweet 16. They finished like 8th in the Pac-12 and only got in because they won the conference tournament. And that's not taken away from Oregon State, but I think it's an interesting dichotomy compared to college football. And I'll go back to Coastal Carolina last year. Anytime I would talk about Coastal Carolina in the playoff, I would get like messages on Twitter saying, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. They don't play a Big Ten or an SEC schedule. And Coastal Carolina was undefeated and had beaten 3 top 20 teams. That's more than Clemson. That's more than Texas A&M. That's more than most of the college football playoff contenders. But last year, if you referenced undefeated Coastal Carolina and having even a chance to be considered a national contender, you got told you didn't know what you're talking about. You got told you were belittling the regular season. You got told you're not appreciating the full totality of a resume. So in college football, if you even bring up the idea of Cincinnati or Appalachian State or Coastal Carolina or Boise State, people look at you like you're crazy, and people are ready to go toe-to-toe with you if you even mention that they deserve a shot. But in college basketball, you can be 9-23, win your conference tournament, and not only are people advocating for you to contend, they want you to contend. They're rooting for you to contend. So I guess my question is, why in college football do we not only, and I say we as in like the body of the sport, do we not only not want to give these programs an opportunity, but do we scoff at or argue with the mere notion of them having a chance? But in college basketball, if a team with 12 losses or 14 losses is in the Sweet 16, we're going crazy for them to advance. Why is there the difference?
Because one is prestigious and the other one is not. I mean, the whole thing about it is, you just said it. BJ, most people's not going to know about Coastal Carolina and Cincinnati the way we're going to. When people hear Cincinnati, the first thing they think is, oh man, the basketball team. No, I'm talking about the football team that lost one game this year, and then they played Georgia to the end. No, it is much harder to win, obviously, the NCAA tournament, and it's prestigious. Records don't matter you do what you need to do to get to the tournament. That's it. I don't care who came in on a 10-game winning streak, who came in on a 9-game losing streak. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to win their, the conference tournament to get in. And they don't have to share the spotlight. When a team like, Loyola Chicago is playing, everybody's watching. When a team like Oral Roberts is playing, everybody's watching, and they're Googling. That's what we do now. We Google. We want to learn them. So I know about the team's history by the end of the first half because I'm Googling these teams. And BJ, the thing about it is too, Oral Roberts will be up against, usual suspects. So they say, oh, that's Oral Roberts versus, and then they'll Google them. I just think that college football, I understand what you're saying with a team deserving a shot, but as long as these big time teams keep winning it, which is what they want for the NCAA tournament as well. Make no mistake about it. They want the blue bloods. They want the usual suspects to win it. I just think that the NCAA tournament is just prestigious, man. It really, really is. I mean,
and your point is what I want to ask Kevin, not to interrupt you, but I had a couple of different layers to this I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on. Is Ben, you mentioned, make no mistake about it. They want Gonzaga versus, Baylor or Villanova versus Michigan in the national championship game. My second thought to this is, Kevin, do people love the mid-majors as long as they don't fully rock the boat? And what I mean by that is we love Oregon State, mid-majors and underdogs, Oregon State, Oral Roberts, Loyola, Creighton. Do we love the fact that they make it through the first weekend? But if the national championship game, let's just talk it out, is Creighton versus Oral Roberts, will a lot of people, because we've never had that before, if that happens, will a lot of people go, wait a second, I loved this a week ago. Now it's starting to make me reevaluate the regular season. Is the fact that the college football kind of hierarchy is protected, is that actually more of a reality in college basketball? We just haven't had the national championship status quo challenged yet.
Well, I think a lot of it is just, as Ben said, the nature of the postseason. Who fills out a bracket for the college football playoff? Nobody. I mean, you have secretaries who don't watch basketball, who don't really know a lot about basketball, say, yeah, I'll get in the bracket challenge. I'll take everybody's $10, from this thing. So you have people with a quote unquote rooting interest in something they have no interest in 90% of the time. And then you get to see the little engines that could, i.e. the Oral Roberts and others, come and make their way through. I think the NCAA tournament is kind of, romanticized itself with the one shining moment, and look at these guys coming out and having their time in the spotlight. But again, I don't know that that's true, that we don't like the underdogs to make it. I think to some extent, but Gonzaga's been Elite Eight, finally got through to the Final Four, where now people are saying, look, that's a good team.
But Gonzaga is not a mid-major. I heard them talking about this on national ESPN radio, where they said in college football,
at one point there was.
But at one point Florida State was a mid-major in football. They were in the Metro Conference. The term mid-major.
Gonzaga is still in the West Coast Conference. I mean,
but this is an important point. The term mid-major in football originates from the fact that you do not have access to the postseason format, right? Mm-hmm. So if Vanderbilt goes 0-12 for the next 10 years and Boise State goes 12-0 for the next 10 years, Boise State is still a mid-major and Vanderbilt is still a power conference team solely because of the league they're in and the alignment of the postseason structure. That doesn't exist in college basketball. Because in college basketball, every single conference has a direct pathway to the national championship tournament. So the Gonzaga thing, they've emerged as a national power. I guess my question for you guys is, if Oral Roberts wins the national championship, if Oral Roberts wins it all, do you think a lot of people might be going, well, maybe this?
I don't know, because I think that would be a tremendous story as well. I think people get caught up in the story of, Loyola Chicago got to the Final Four and people go, but it was a tremendous story to see them get there, and people were captivated by it and said, can this team actually do it? So I think to some extent it's 5-on-5. You can have one guy that can really play up and carry a team. Football, you can't do that. You could have Cincinnati with the best quarterback in the country. He doesn't play defense.
All right. Let me ask you this then, because Oral Roberts may be kind of the traditional underdog story. Oregon State has 13 losses. Right. They only got in because they won the Pac-12 tournament. If Oregon State wins the national championship, do you think most people will go, "Oh, awesome," or do you think most people will go, "This was not the best team from the college basketball season"?
They will say both. But guess what? But both things can be true, but they still won it. See, the thing is, they did what they needed. We can't get mad at the rules now. Most teams know. Oregon State knew going into the season, the only way we're gonna get in is the tournament. It's Pac-12 tournament. So I think what happens is, BJ, is it doesn't matter how people are gonna say it wasn't. No, Oral Roberts, these 16 teams in, they've done what they need to do to get to this point. If it is Creighton versus, Loyola Chicago, that is your national championship, and people will tune in. You know why? Because they're gonna talk about their story even more. Let's take it back to Loyola Chicago, back when they played Michigan a couple of years. I'm telling you, basketball, BJ, I just think that we get caught up into who's going to be the lottery. Is it a lottery pick this year? No one picks. Doesn't he go to Oregon State? Oklahoma State. Yeah. And listen, if he walked by us, no one would know him. He's not a Zion Williamson, But I think what happens in basketball is people are trying to show you that basketball, it's about as level as it get. Because we start thinking this team, that who cares? Get in the tournament, anything can happen, will happen. So I think if quote we call them mid-majors beating these big time schools year in and year out. So I just think when it comes to college football,
It just kind of frustrates me, Ben, that the magic and the love and kind of the intrigue and the support we see for non-traditional powers in college basketball, and it's fun. I agree, but it's both perplexing to me and frustrating to me that we have so much kind of appreciation for those programs in college basketball. But in college football, if somebody dare challenges the status quo and you have a new name, it's like you all of a sudden they don't play anybody, their resume stinks. When you don't apply any of that to those teams in college basketball.
All I'm saying is, hold on, Kevin. All I'm saying is this: if you meet somebody and you ask, man, what school you went to when you were in college? Oh, I went to Notre Dame. You're gonna assume that this player was good, and you've never seen him. You went to Notre Dame, yeah. Hey man, what you're an engineer? What school? I went to Georgia Tech. You're gonna assume because of where they went. I went to Oral Roberts. Oh, where is that? Oh, we also, but back in 2021, it's just that certain things, BJ, just come with a certain level of prestige, whether it lives up to it or not. When it comes to basketball, Oral Roberts knows the only way people are gonna know about who we are and what we do, we got to go and win it all. We can't just automatic, because if they get to the Final Four and lose, it's going to be a great story that didn't end well. So they got the thing about a mid-major, they got to win it for us to remember them, and that's a crazy part.
I don't know if that's true, but I mean, I just look at it and say football is just an entirely different sport where you can't have one guy carry you over the finish line. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, as good as he was, can't carry Clemson over the finish line. Mac Jones can't carry Alabama over the finish line. It's a team thing, and I think. You look at the number of players it takes to be a really good football team consistently, BJ, is why they get. And again, everybody knows listen to this show. I agree with you. I agree with you that they should be given their shot. But I think you look at basketball, baseball, you see a lot of, quote, mid-majors have a lot of success. Coastal Carolina won the World Series in college baseball a couple years ago.
This is what I'm asking you, Kevin.
Ride the magic of that because it's fun.
That I don't understand.
Football, you just don't see that because I think of the nature of the way football gets played as well.
But why do we love the college basketball newcomer? But do we look for every reason possible, even made up reasons, to discredit the college football newcomer?
I mean, I don't, because the thing is too, I don't think it's a football newcomer, BJ, more than the fact that it's just like they're just not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. If you in the NCAA tournament,
why?
BJ, that's just how we program. I mean, the thing about it is this: if Ken Griffey Jr. was bad at baseball, we would be like, what the hell wrong with you? Because of what he comes from, right? That's kind of how it goes in college football. It's like, well, dude, if we got to go, where you play at? Oh, okay, where is that at? Whereas in basketball, everybody's watching. Everybody's watching, and with football, if you got an option between a big-time school and a mid-major, you're going to pick the big-time school every single time.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out on this Tuesday afternoon. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We're all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It's 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us here on the show. We'll take a look at Mel Kiper's latest mock draft. He's got, again, something happening that has not happened in the real draft before. So we'll break that down coming up top of the final hour of the show. But a year ago, BJ and Ben, obviously everything shut down. No, we weren't getting March Madness. We had something unleashed upon us that just was magical. Tiger King, a year ago, released, and well, I will say this: when everything was shut down and we didn't know what was going on, it gave Christian and I a lot of content on the show. That's for sure. And I thought we talked before the show. I thought that was one of those things that came along at the right time, where everybody was locked down, shut down, nowhere to go, and this weird, wacky, crazy show just got unleashed on America, called Tiger King. And it made you feel a little bit better about, I'll just be honest. Hey man, there's some messed up stuff out there, and you got the, Tiger King going on. I know, Ben, you watched the show. Christian and I talked about it on the show the whole time. It was going on there during the early stages of the pandemic.
So I kept hearing, I kept seeing all the blonde mohawks. Everybody's talking about the Tiger King. I mean, Twitter had lit up about it. So then I'm like, man, what? I'm like, what are they talking about? So I go to Netflix and I turn it on and I go, what? Now, BJ, I know you didn't. I'm gonna tell you off the show who he reminded me of. He reminded me of a certain person who has no hair. It's just this time he got hair. I think you know what I'm talking. Just imagine this bald guy with a mohawk instead of dogs. It's tigers. Anyway, Joe Exotic, Kevin. Look, this dude is made for.
He was made for TV for sure.
And the thing is, people talk about individuality. People talk about not caring about what people say about you. Joe Exotic doesn't care. I do not care how you see me. I don't care how you view me. And Carol Baskin became the biggest villain. And I'm like, who is Carol? And every show that Carol Baskin, what you want to eat today? I tell you, it don't matter what they were talking. And this is the thing too, Kevin. When you forget sometimes. He's walking around with tigers. He's walking around with tigers. Like, he be talking to him, you don't bite my shoe. I'm like, no, he's about to bite your leg off. Like, Shaq was on there. It was it.
What did they smear on his shoe, Kevin? Like tuna scent?
Yeah, they put some kind of meat scent. Is like the tiger would eat foot off. It was crazy.
What's the receiver, Christian, that played for San Francisco? He came out of really, really fast. He got traded to Philadelphia. Him and his wife was there taking pictures. That was when I seen this picture on Twitter, I'm thinking, oh man, they photoshopped that tiger in there. No, he's there with Joe Exotic. And Joe, I don't care who Joe Exotic. You even tell Ben, listen, I know this tiger's face is like really, really big. He's not gonna bite you. Yeah, but he won't stop looking at it. Just don't.
You haven't even mentioned Doc Antle yet, who's running a cult in Myrtle Beach with his multitudes of wives.
Oh yeah. Now I will say this: all the storylines just get weirder and weirder and weirder. But I will say this: if there was ever a show to where if you turn it on, you hooked. Oh, it's Tiger King. You turn on one, you go, man, let me see this. And you start saying,
hard to watch.
And
you couldn't turn away.
The hardest working people on the planet, they work for Carol Baskin. They ain't getting nothing. They get you go from like white to purple to green, and they say it's a privilege to be out here with these tigers. No, the hell it ain't, because you don't need the food.
Yeah, Carol Baskin is a definition of unpaid internship.
Yes, exactly.
Carol Baskin says, Carol, they was complaining about wages. Who said something about getting paid? You see what we giving them? I said they got the landscape. They got the plant their own vegetables? They cook them in the back. But I will say this, Kevin. I just know that. I said, look, I thought I was weird, which I am. Joe Exotic is the man.
Yeah, like I said, when everything shut down, it got us through a lot of dry times on the show.
Challenge.
Yeah. Between this and Christian doing the McDonald's challenge, it was it covered up a time during the show.
How did that go, by the way, Christian?
I got it down. I just wanted to die.
He was worthless for about 2 days after that.
That was the most engaged I've seen Kevin on the show in years, because Kevin was having so much fun, like watching me suffer through the last waves of French fries and soda. Like, Kevin it was amazing. It was Kevin at his highest point.
Yeah, I enjoyed other people's suffering. Apparently,
hold on. This is my
you're
thing.
sitting there with this look on your face that where you just like, please,
I was floating.
just let me lay down. And
Look at this top. Look.
Oh no, I have
This tiger, man.
I have confirmation from Sean Quinn that homecoming game in the fall. He said he would wear that if we showed up wearing it on the sideline as well. The blue.
Listen. I mean, with the white pants. No, hold on. Are we allowed to have a shirt on underneath, or is BJ got to show off the top?
No, you got to let it all flow.
Just wear that.
You got to let it flow
with white pants.
I mean, come out there like what's up, everybody, man? We on the this is ESPN Coast, so you know it's a 3 and out. That's Kevin Thomas. That's BJ Bennett. That's Christian. I mean, I'm just saying.
Quinn wearing it on the sideline with a headset, calling plays, getting mad at a ref.
I said, listen, homeboy. I said, listen. I mean, I almost got some dirt on my $100 slacks, homeboy. Let me tell you, hey, I'll do it. Listen, you only live once, BJ. I'm just saying, BJ. BJ.
BJ, that shirt's cute until you're losing by 10 in the fourth quarter. Then you're mad you're wearing it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
it's like,
Gary, are we gonna be stinking by the end of the game? We gonna be some stinking little jokers on the sideline.
That's one of those things. It's like Dan Mullen with the Darth Vader. Hey, this looks good in the mirror.
Yeah. Hold on, Christian. But no matter what, Christian, we got to pick a restaurant to just walk in after the game and look at the waitress and say, certain people are just ridiculous. Can I get a menu, please?
Then we can record a country album and call it a day.
Well, we have to have somebody else sing it for us.
Yes, but it was 1 year ago today, Tiger King unleashed on the world. We've got more to come. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us. We'll get to Mel Kiper's latest mock draft, as in his mock draft predicting something to happen that has not yet happened in a NFL draft before. So we'll break that down coming up in the final hour of the program. And what does that mean for the Atlanta Falcons moving forward as well? So look at Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest mock there and break it down. But certainly a lot to get to here as we work through the final days of spring training. The Braves will start a week or so from Thursday up in Philadelphia. So looking forward to that as the team pairs down the roster and gets ready to go in about a week, BJ.
I'm ready. I think they're going to be good. I think you're talking about a team that deserves to be the division favorite, a team that's earned that, a team that got better from where they were last season. So I'm excited and ready to go.
Yeah. Again, a week from Thursday, we will have the season back anew with Atlanta Braves baseball. We've got another hour to go here on 3 and Out. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio, at Pigskin Radio. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, streaming live as well. And, of course, we are all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here on 3 and Out, final hour on this Tuesday afternoon. Glad you're making us a part of your day. Plenty to get to here on the show. We'll hear from Chad Lunsford, Buck Bellew here in the final hour as well. And we've got the latest from Mel Kiper Jr. with his mock draft. And once again, he's got something that hasn't happened before, BJ and Ben, happening. He's got 4 straight quarterbacks going at the top. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance going 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, Fields at 3 would be with a trade from Miami to the Carolina Panthers in his mock draft, but still never seen 4 quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4. That would leave you sitting there at 5 with basically your pick of anybody else on the board, not a quarterback there for your number 1 pick. I just don't see that happening. I think the Jets could potentially okey doke. I mean, is Zach Wilson way better than what you have potentially, than Sam Darnold, if you give him some stuff to work with? I mean, who knows? What say you, BJ, about just giving that initial glance at the top 4?
I definitely think it could happen. I think it's a sign of the times, right? And quarterbacks have always been extremely valued, but you go look at the draft over the last 25 years and you had, a stretch where edge rushers were the priority and everybody wanted this dynamic, versatile edge defender. And you saw guys, maybe at times get a little bit overdrafted because of that. Then you had a stretch where it was like, oh my God, you have to get the offensive tackle. Like you have to. And you had guys, and I'm not saying these weren't elite prospects, but you had guys like Eric Fisher and guys like Jake Long who might have gotten a little bit overdrafted because offensive tackle was just the primo position. And quarterback has always been there, but I think now more than ever been, everybody wants the next Pat Mahomes. Everybody wants the next Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers. Now, good luck with that. I wish you the best of luck. And you may see quarterbacks taken over vastly more proven commodities. I like Trey Lance a lot. I think he's exciting. I think his potential is amazing. I think his college career, incredible. But to me, just based on the limited sample size of his play, I think it's hard to say, hey, man, we're going to draft you at 4 or 5 over a guy like Penei Sewell, over a guy like Kyle Pitts, over a player like Micah Parsons. But because of the era we're in and because teams are winning, Ben, scoring 30, 35, 38 points a game, I absolutely think quarterback could be the 1 through 4 chalk to start this thing off.
Of course, and I think it's probably going to end up being that for all those things you just said, BJ, and the Mitchell Trubisky effect. Every time Patrick Mahomes does anything, Deshaun Watson does anything, what do people say? And these guys could have took him. I mean, the Chicago Bears, moved up to get Mitchell Trubisky, who wasn't even the best team on the college team he came from. All I'm saying is, offensive tackles are great, cornerbacks are great, defensive linemen are great. They do not control the game like quarterbacks. They just don't. Bad quarterbacks still control the game. You're talking about a player that's going to touch the ball every single play, that your hopes and dreams will go as that quarterback goes. Every team that's getting a quarterback, can you deal with their worst flaws? What is Trevor Lawrence's worst flaw? He stares receivers down. His number 1 receiver, he will stare him down. They're going to have to get past that. I mean, when I think about Zach Wilson, I mean, can he play up to the competition? I mean, because I know he's good, but can he play up to the competition on a bad team in a division that they haven't really competed in a while? When I look at Justin Fields, the one thing I can say about Justin Fields, as far as because he got the big throws, he got the game, is he is a dual threat quarterback. Can he play 16 games consistently at a high level? And when I watch Trey Lance does his thing with his plant foot, the way he kind of bends down. And he kind of had to stand back up to throw. That's bad mechanics. That's a Tim Tebow type mechanic, and that's how he's always done. Can you get him out of that? But on top of that fact is everybody wants a QB. Every draft we get to talk about these QBs. Every single draft.
I just think, Ben, quickly, this is why I think I don't know if it goes that way. If I'm the Falcons sitting at number 4 and it falls to Trey Lance, am I going to take the 4th best guy maybe on my board? Knowing that I have Matt Ryan and Matt Ryan's under contract for 1, 2. How many more years do you think he has? Do I go out and get more help for the right here and now versus Trey Lance, who may not be over the moon about it? I get reaching, but if you're the Falcons, you don't have to do that. You can go for another quarterback later in another year, another round, another class, whatever. I just don't know if it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 because the Falcons don't, in my opinion, don't have to get a quarterback.
Yeah, they don't. And the thing about it is too, at a certain point, you're gonna get Matty Ice's successor. You're gonna get that guy. And I look at what Jameis Winston just said about a guy like Drew Brees. He said, I love Drew Brees, but I owe a debt of gratitude to this guy because I learned the quarterback position at a different level from this guy. He's not going to beat Matty Ice out. And this notion of these surefire prospects every year, no, some guys didn't get drafted in the first round. I mean, Jared Goff was the number 1 overall pick. Carson Wentz was the number 2 overall pick, and both of them have been traded after they signed big contracts. So I'm just saying, a guy like Trey Lance, I just think that you look at it as if we don't get him, and he comes in and he's a baller, we could have got him. I think it's that if factor, Kevin, not just that, is he a better quarterback? Is he a guy that can take us into the future? Because I don't think Matty Ice going to be on the books in 2022.
All right. Also, quickly, I mean, Kevin, I don't know if you want to disclose it, but I saw there was an interesting note in the rundown about Penei Sewell.
Yes, we'll do that real quick. Again, Christian said if Penei Sewell goes to 9 or later, that I can tase him. I can tase Christian. And I've never wanted a guy to drop out of the top 10 more than I do him. I love you, Penei Sewell, but if you could please drop to like number 10, I mean, tase Christian. I mean, it would be like the biggest stress relief ever. It's like you get to tase Christian, the thorn in my side. I get to let him in.
Why would you do that? Like crazy things happen in the draft, and that was completely unsolicited. It's not like a bet.
Yeah, he threw it out there. It is going to be our version. It is going to be. I'm just saying, this is the thing. To Christian is real. Christian is our betting guy. You know, I'm just saying, Christian is our betting guy. But if Penei Sewell drops to number 9, Kevin gonna give him that look. Like, boy, you the rest of.
There's 2 things you don't bet. One is I'll get a tattoo if. No, you don't do that. And 2, never voluntarily put yourself open to get tased. Why would you do that? Penei Sewell will go number 10. It'll make me feel good about it in the draft. if he gets that far. We've still got more to come here on 3 and Out here in the final hour. Georgia Southern starting spring practice tomorrow. We'll hear from Chad Lunsford, Georgia Southern head football coach. Also, the Braves getting ready for opening day. Georgia spring practice as well. We'll hear from former Georgia quarterback, now with the Braves Radio Network, Buck Bellew. We'll hear from him and get his thoughts on the G-Day, Georgia spring practice, and more. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network, streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com.